So welcome to the first of my hardware reviews. I've got lots of hardware to review. I've got lots of companies that have reached out. This one in particular was Razer. Everybody knows who Razer are, and they was kind enough to give us some products. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking, how's he getting free products? He's only got 300 subscribers. Then check out my World of Warcraft specific channel, Scottejaye. It was actually for that community, but I want to start doing full in-depth reviews and how they can make your gaming experience better, or even just content creation and live streaming, which there's going to be lots of useful hints and tips for that as well. And the chair that I'm sat in, also Razer Iskar, I'll be putting out a review on this chair in the coming days as well. So if you find this video useful, obviously drop it a like. Make sure you subscribe. This channel, I hope, only just gets stronger and stronger over the coming months. And let's get into the Razer Naga Pro. So what I like and what I've always liked about Razer products, it's much like Apple products, if I'm completely honest with you, is the packaging. I think the packaging says a lot about any item that you buy. If people put care into the packaging, then you know the product's going to be premium. I'm not saying that's always the case, but I do like to see products actually packaged premium. You know, a premium product deserves premium packaging, which sounds a bit sad, but just looking at it, so it's a modular wireless gaming mouse. It's got 3 swappable side plates, which we will be having a look at shortly. It's got 3 modes of connection. So yes, it's a wireless mouse, but you can also use it as wired. The third option is the hyperspeed 2.4 gig. So it's Bluetooth, hyperspeed, or USB. It's also compatible with another Razer product, which is the mouse dock Chroma, so for easy charging. And it even recommends on the box what sort of game type you would use each different side plate for. So it recommends the 2 button for more sort of FPS games, the 6 button for more sort of survival, battle royale, MOBA style games, and then the 12 button for MMOs. Specifically, it mentions MMOs. Now, I'm going to get into why that is correct. You might be best off using I like to call it the traditional Naga side plate with the 12 buttons in an MMO. I still would lean towards the middle one, which has got less buttons, and I'm going to tell you why shortly. But let's open her up and have a look. Inside the box, we should have everything that you would expect. So a little thank you for buying it, the instructions on how to use it. We won't look at that. We'll just wing it. I like winging it. We don't need to worry about that too much, but feel free to have a read through that if you get yourself one of these. And then it comes with some nice stickers, which Razer generally throw in with everything, which is pretty cool. Then we have a USB charging cable. Nice, sort of braided as well. You could expect to get a lot of wear and tear on this mouse cable and not have too many issues. And then what we really care about, the mouse and the side plates. We have the wireless extender, basically, the wireless dongle extender. So all this is used for is if you was needing it to just reach further, which is just the best way of describing it. You plug your charger into the extender, and we'll use this for demonstration purposes anyway. So now you can extend this cable maybe round to the back of your monitors. It depends how far away your PC is. But now when we take this first side plate off of the mouse, which these are magnetic, by the way, so they just literally, obviously they make connection on the pins there, and then they've got a magnet at the top and a magnet at the bottom, and then they just make contact and they just slot on very nicely. But if we take this off for now, inside you've got your connector, which would go into your PC. Now this is a 2.4 gigahertz. So you would plug this into your extender, and now your extender could just sit on your desk if you wanted it on your desk, or, you know, but either way, we can extend it. I will plug this in to a spare USB port now, just for when we start testing. So that's plugged in. When we're ready to start using it, we shouldn't have anything else to do. So now let's look at the side plates. Let me get rid of some of this packaging and the instructions for the time being. So we've got 3 side plates. So we've got one which has got 12 buttons on. We've got one which has got 2 buttons on. And then we've got one that's got 6 buttons on, all next to each other. So my preference, like I said at the start for World of Warcraft, would be to use the 6. And the reason for that is, if you are like me and you're using the Razer Tartarus with it, you've got a lot of keybinds already. So what I find these useful for is modifiers. So you could have the bottom row, perhaps, as Control, Alt, Shift, and then maybe 3 macros, or maybe your mounts on here, stuff that, you know, you just want quick access to. But having these as modifiers then means even if you're using a keyboard, you can hold this button. And now, let's say you was using 1, 2, 3, and 4 on your keyboard. Now, when you hold this, you've got Shift 1, 2, 3, 4, Control 1, 2, 3, 4, Alt 1, 2, 3, 4. So it unlocks a lot more bindings just outside of, you know, ordinary bindings you would be using on your keyboard or on your Tartarus. Now, on the underside of the mouse, you've got a toggle for 2 different modes. So you can toggle it to either BT for Bluetooth, or to 2.4 for your wireless dongle that comes with the Naga Pro. Or you can obviously set it to off, and if it's set to off, then you would be probably having it plugged in and using it as a wired mouse, which is also fine. So the wire just plugs in at the top there, so it's not going to get in the way. You're not going to notice any difference between using it as a wired mouse, even though it's a wireless mouse, but using it wired versus using a traditional wired mouse anyway. Now, the other interesting thing on the bottom, which will make more sense once we get into the software, into the Razer Synapse software, it's got a profile button. So you can have these set to different keybinds for different profiles. So again, when it comes to, say, PvP in World of Warcraft, you could have a profile for PvP, you could have a profile for PvE, you could perhaps even have one for crafting. I know that might seem a bit strange that you have to just like press a button on your mouse before you do certain things, but again, it just unlocks, you know, more potential on what you can use. We will have a look at what they all look like, obviously attached anyway. So this would be your 12. I feel like that's too many, personally. You know, it could work, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure there's lots of people who do use it, because what you could actually do with this in like specifically again in MMOs or World of Warcraft, you don't even need to use buttons on your keyboard really, or you could just use your keyboard for cooldowns, because you could quite literally just use your thumb for certain abilities. You know, so let's say you're playing a warlock, you could bind all of these to Shadow Bolt and then just roll your thumb all over it while you're raiding. Not suggesting that that's the best way to go, but you know, there's lots of things that you can do with this. You know, even if you just wanted these as buttons that you wouldn't ordinarily have keybound, you know, just because you've got them there as an option, that could also be a good thing. And it's quite easy to tell on your, when you get used to using this, it's quite easy to tell what one your thumbs are over, due to the first ones actually being angled up and then the last ones being angled up as well. So it almost sort of creates like it reminds me of like a half pipe in skateboarding. I mean, the general feel of the mouse as well, it's a nice size where your hand actually sits nice and comfortably on the mouse, and it's got a nice rest for sort of your ring finger, if you like, as well. So your hand just sort of naturally falls into position on it, which, you know, comfort's a big thing, especially when you're doing long sessions on any game, on anything that you're doing, or even if it's for video editing or whatever. You know, when you're sat for long periods of time, you know, you want a comfortable mouse. But let's have a quick look at the software and have a look at what we can do with it when we turn it on. So once you plug it in, you'll automatically be prompted to download the Razer Synapse. So this is the Synapse, and you can see these are the devices that I've currently got plugged in and registered to my account. So we've got the Razer Tartarus V2, which is what I use, like I said at the beginning of the video, the Razer Naga Trinity, which is my wired mouse that I use, which is very similar to the Naga Pro, just a slightly different side panel, and obviously it's not wireless. And then the Razer Naga Pro, which is the one we're interested in because this is the one we're looking at. So if we click on the Razer Naga Pro, now it will show, so profile firstly, so we can obviously add different profiles like I said at the beginning, and then when you press the button on the underside of the mouse, it will then switch between these profiles. So firstly, it will show you here, these are the different side panels that you can use. So like I said at the start, we've got the 2 button, we've got the 6 button, and we've got the 12 button. We're currently using the 12 button. So we're also just going to be looking at it on standard. So you can activate Hypershift, which configure Razer Hypershift shortcuts here. Enjoy an extra set of buttons using the Razer Hypershift key. So that's to basically be able to have 2 sets if you like. But we don't need that. For demonstration purposes, we just don't need that. So if we was to stick with exactly how it comes out of the box. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this is just all of your keys basically going along the top row of your keyboard. So like some of you may know or may not know, if you haven't seen me before, I do play a lot of World of Warcraft. So depending on what channel you're currently watching this video on, you can find my World of Warcraft videos specifically on Scottejaye on YouTube, if you're watching on SJ Gaming Live, that is. But if I really quickly just jump into game, so we'll go onto the beta and just find something to kill so you can see in-game exactly how this works. I've not got this configured to how I would personally have it set up, but if we was to look at, let's say, this mob for example, now I can just use, I've got one hand off the keyboard, one on the mouse, and we can literally just use the buttons on the side to be able to kill, and never actually, you know, you could literally do your entire rotation just on the mouse. Now you've got either your Razer Tartarus or you've got your keyboard completely free for anything you want. It's not, I don't consider it the most comfortable way to play, but it's certainly possible. What I could see this being useful for is things like video editing, as an example, to have all those keys just to bind to shortcuts to be able to cut, trim, extend, add effects, all that sort of thing. So specifically for WoW, I personally find 12 buttons a bit of an overkill. So let's look at the 6 buttons and see what you can do with that. And also, you've got to remember, I'm focusing on one game here because it's the one game that I play and invest a lot of time into. But, you know, if you're talking like first-person shooters, then you might just want to use the 2 buttons, because you might just have one for sprint, one for crouch or crawl or something like that. Or you might want to have a bit more flexibility and go with a 6. So you might have sprint, reload, crawl, whatever, you know, basically every action that you need to use all at your thumb, you know, at the disposal of your thumb. But let's have a look at the 6, and I'll show you how I personally have this set up for me on World of Warcraft. So if we now switch to the 6, so it's as simple as there's a small little ridge underneath, just clip off, and then go with the 6. So now I'm going to show you how I, on the Razer Synapse, would have this set up and how I would use it in-game in conjunction with either the keyboard or the Razer Tartarus, depending on what one you want to use. So now we're in the Razer Tartarus software again. It gives you a tick to let you know exactly which side plate you have on. But we know we've got the 6 on anyway, so we're using the 6. So this is how I would have it. Along the top, you've got 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6 underneath. So I feel more comfortable. I feel like my thumb naturally sits on the bottom row more than it does the top. I feel like the top is where I would move my thumb to hit something reactively maybe. So 4, 5, and 6, I would literally click on the 4, and then we're going to change it to a keyboard function, and we're going to rebind this one to control. So that is now control. We save that, it's done. We'll then click on the 5, and then we're going to have the 5 again as a keyboard function, and we're going to keybind this one to shift, and then save. And then we'll do the same with 6. So we're going to have the 6 as a keyboard function, and we're going to have this one as Alt. So now we've got those ones. What you can also do is on the top view, you've got these 2 buttons here, sensitivity stage up and sensitivity stage down. So what these do is change the sensitivity of your mouse up and down. But I don't feel like I need that on my mouse. So what I actually do is I rebind those to something useful as well. So for now, what we'll just go with is we'll rebind this one to a keyboard function, and we'll rebind it to K, and we'll rebind this keyboard function to J. So now we've got these 2 buttons, extra keybinds. I personally just use these for my mounts, you know, if again, talking specifically World of Warcraft, but you could use them for whatever you want. And then for these, I'm just going to leave these as they are, because all I'm bothered about is the modifiers. You can bind the top 3 to whatever you feel, you know, necessary. But now what this has actually done is now given me another whole set of keybinds. So if I was using, say, 1 to 5 on my keyboard for whatever game, doesn't matter what you're playing, now I can hold one of my buttons on the mouse and it will be Control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Alt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Shift 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I've got, without a modifier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all of a sudden you've turned those 5 keys now into 20. You know, which in some games where you've got lots of binds, or let's not fixate so much on games, but just anything you do, as I say, video editing or coding, software, whatever you're into, having all of these additional like quick accessible keybinds can be useful just outside of gaming. But again, depending on what game you're actually playing, it might not be World of Warcraft. I'm just using this as an example. But me personally, I'm much more of a fan of the 6-button orientation, just because I feel like I've got enough. You know, between this and the Tartarus, I've got enough. Now, overall, it's a brilliant product. It was, I mean, very easy to set up, like you saw. You know, we literally just plugged the dongle into the extension unit that's provided with it as well, and we turned it on. We installed the software and it just worked. And you can change these for whatever you want. These are just my suggestions based on the game that I actually play. There's lots of other fun things in the settings that you can change around. You know, you can customize the lighting. That was specifically on my Tartarus there. But if we go to the Naga Pro, you've got performance controls. So, you know, the different sensitivity stages, which you'll just have to play about with and see what sensitivity suits you. You can change the lighting on it. So when the display's turned off, you know, you can change all of this. Quick effects, spectrum cycling, breathing, so it just changes the way your mouse looks, which I'm not overly bothered about. I must admit, it's nice, it makes the mouse look nice and stand out, but ultimately the only person who sees the mouse is me. So you can do smart tracking calibration, you can have wireless power saving, so it enters sleep if it's idle for X amount of minutes that you choose. There's a low power mode as well, so when it's wireless it'll enter low power mode if the battery drops below whatever percentage you set it as. But ultimately the battery power on it is really good anyway. I mean, I've not even charged it, I've taken it out of the box and it's barely moved, and I've been using it while I've been recording for nearly an hour. So I would say like the battery life on it's really solid. You wouldn't have to worry about that. If it did start to die and you're halfway through an intense gaming session, you just plug the wire in and then carry on playing. You know, it's a non-issue. But I did say at the start of the video that you would be able to get these extremely cheap, and I mean extremely cheap, 30% off. So box.co.uk have been nice enough to provide me with a Scottejaye 30 code that you use at checkout. On selected items, it's the 6 Razer products that I'll put in the description, but you can get 30% off. One of them's the chair, you've got the Naga, basically anything that you would want for World of Warcraft. Definitely head over to box.co.uk and use my Scottejaye 30 at checkout. I mean, 30% is massive. So until the next one, I hope you found this useful. There's lots more that you can do with it, a lot more in depth. But until the next one, peace out.